Okay, so hello my people. In this tutorial, we'll be looking at an interesting topic in mathematics, which is change of subject of formula. And another name for that is transposition of a formulae. Now, when we say change of subject of formula, what it means is that we want to try as much as possible to rearrange a particular formula in such a way that another variable becomes the subject of that formula. We want to rearrange a particular formula in such a way that another variable becomes the subject of that formula. What am I saying? Looking at example 1 that we have here, we have x plus y is equal to z. Now we would observe that the z on the right hand side of the equation is standing alone, which means the z is the subject of this formula. Now whenever a letter is standing on its own like this, now we can refer to that letter as the subject of that formula. Now what we are now trying to do here is that we want to make another letter the subject of that formula. Z in this case is the subject. But the question says that we should make X the subject of formula in the following question, and of which number 1 is X plus Y equals Z. Now why I highlighted these simple questions is that sometimes it is very important to understand the basics of mathematics. So when we understand the basics, other things fall into place. So that is why I'm going to take it from the simplest, then we'll move on to some of the wire questions, jam questions, and so on and so forth. So let us start with number 1. We have x plus y is equal to z. Now in this question, we have been asked to make x, in fact, in all these questions, we have been asked to make x the subject of formula. Now one thing you should take note of is this. Whenever you have your letter, I'm talking about the variable that you want to make the subject of the formula, the first thing you need to do is you locate where that particular variable is. In our case, our variable x is on the left hand side of the equation. Now this is the left hand side. Now this is the right hand side. Now the variable x is on the left hand side of the equation. And on the left hand side of the equation, there are certain things disturbing my x from standing on its own, because the question says we should make x stand on its own. That is, we should make x the subject of the formula. Now this y on the left hand side of this equation or formula is disturbing my x from standing on its own. So what am I going to do? One thing is, whenever you have it like this, the variable that you want to make the subject of the formula, then you now have your basic operation plus sign in the middle, and then you have the number or letter that is disturbing that particular variable from standing on its own. What we are going to do is we should just take that particular letter that is disturbing our x to the other side of the equation, and that is all. We have x plus y equals z. Here we have 3 terms, x, y, and z. So all we need to do here is to take the plus y to the other side of the equation, and whenever the plus sign crosses the equal to sign, then we have a negative y. So here we have x equals z minus y, and here is our final answer. X is now the subject of our formula. Question 2, we have x, y is equal to z. Now in this question, we would observe that our variable x is on the left-hand side of the equation. Since it is on the left-hand side of the equation, we are going to look at some of those things that are disturbing it from standing on its own. And here we have y again. So what we are going to do is quite simple. The question we should be asking ourselves is, what joined my x and y together? And that is the multiplication sign. So whenever your variable that you want to make the subject of the formula is joined by another variable with the multiplication sign, in order to make that particular variable the subject of formula, all you need to do is to divide. Meaning, when you have multiplication sign joining your variable that you want to make the subject of the formula and another variable, what you can do to separate them is to divide. So in this case, what I have beside the x is y. In order to make x the subject of formula, I am going to divide both sides of the equation by y. Y cancels y here. You are left with x equals z all over y, and this is the final answer. You can see that our x is now the subject of formula. Let's look at question 3. In question 3, we have 2xy minus a is equal to z. In this question, the subject here is z, but the question asks us to make x the subject of the formula. So what we are going to do is quite simple. Here we are having a combination of, first of all, our variable that we want to make the subject of formula is on the left-hand side of the equation. Now what are those things surrounding it? Here we have 2 and y. We also have minus a. So what we are going to do first of all is to take that minus a to the other side of the equation. Then we have 2xy is equal to z. Here, when it crosses, it becomes plus a. Now you can see that we have successfully moved this to the other side and we are left with 2xy. We want to make x the subject of formula. So those things surrounding my x now are 2 and y. So what do? The first thing I need to ask myself is this: what joined them together? And that is the multiplication. 2x times y gives me 2xy. So in that case, to separate them, I am going to use my division. So I'm going to divide both sides by those things that are disturbing my x from standing on its own, which are 2y. Here I divide by 2y as well, so that 2 will cancel 2 and y will cancel y. My x is equal to z plus a all over 2y. Now to the final question. Question 4, I have 3x over z is equal to t. Now in this question, we have also been asked to make x the subject of formula. But what you can observe is that t is the subject here. And my x is positioned on the left-hand side of the equation. And those things that are disturbing my x from standing on its own are 3 and z. And what can I observe again? I observe that on the left-hand side of the equation, I have a fraction. So what am I going to do? Whenever you have it like this, you are having two terms. Whenever you are having two terms, a term on the left-hand side and another term on the right-hand side, what you are going to do is make sure they are both fraction. This is t, then make it over 1, and then you cross multiply. Once I cross multiply, 3x times 1 gives me 3x, which is equal to z times t gives me zt. So what can you observe now? That the only thing disturbing my x from standing on its own is the 3 that I have here. So what do? I'm going to divide both sides of the equation by that thing that is disturbing my x from standing on its own, which is 3 divided by 3. So 3 goes here, And therefore, let me bring it to this side. And therefore, my x is finally equal to zt all over 3. So that will be all for today. The best thing you can do is to share, like, and comment. Until next time. Bye.